Oh, that's live.
Yay! Hey, everyone. Welcome to Home with a Twist. I'm Melissa Austin Weeks. I am the founder and editor of Home with a Twist, everything my mother taught me with a modern spin. And tonight I have with me stylist and author Heather Newberger. And Heather, where are you in New York?
I am. I'm in Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
Okay, all right. So it's kind of late there for her. Do you have a cocktail?
I have this Spindrift sparkling water. I'm a big fan of sparkling water.
Ooh, okay. Well, I have alcohol in mine.
That's good. I enjoy that.
I want to give a shout out to the company that makes these. It's called Camp Craft Cocktail.
Oh,
and they put all the botanicals in a jar, and then you mix it with your own alcohol, and you let it steep in the refrigerator. So this is a sangria.
Yeah. That's so cool. Oh, I wish I had that.
So take a little sip. Okay, because this is just relaxed girl talk tonight. Okay, so I hope everybody will chime in with comments. Of course, I don't know that I can even see comments on here. What here's comments. I don't know. There we go.
Okay. I don't have it in mind, so I'll let you.
I got it over here. So Heather has a brand new book called How to Date Your Wardrobe.
It was the other way.
Oh.
No, you're good. I just am realizing that if I'm pointing
it's backward. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's other ways to revive, revitalize, and reinvigorate your style. And we were chatting in the green room, which is kind of exciting, about the fact that what I love about your book, and I made notes in my book. Heather liked that. So I don't know if y'all do that. I love to make notes in my book so that I'll remember for later. But what I loved about your book is it isn't a list of things you need in your closet. It's a map of self-discovery of what makes you feel good. So we're going to start with that. And I want you to tell us how this wonderful resource came to be.
Well, it's a long, fun journey. Actually, it started off with me just sort of writing personal narrative essays my entire life. I've always been writing at my mom's kitchen table and doing a lot of, actually, you can find my Medium page online. I do a lot of essays mostly about dating, unsurprisingly.
Okay.
But usually a lot of women's issues, et cetera. And I was doing that kind of work on the side while also growing over the years to become a stylist. I had a really sort of unconventional journey to becoming a stylist, which we can talk about later. But these two things I saw as very separate from each other. I didn't see them as being connected. I didn't really think of myself as a style writer or vice versa, or that those two things would sort of commingle with each other. And then I had one of those sort of I don't know, they always come to Jesus moments, or it all kind of coalesces in your brain, where I realized that I could actually utilize my experience as a writer and then combine that with my expertise as a stylist to be able to sort of combine these things and create something that would actually be consumable and approachable and engaging for an audience that I could speak to. And so the original actual version of the book was supposed to be more about sort of really taking retailers' points of view and sort of subverting them so that you can take control back when you're shopping. But then COVID happened.
Yeah.
And basically I looked at what I had written and my editor was really happy with it. And she'd taken the book and she'd was this looks great. She'd done all her edits. And I was okay, thanks so much. I'm going to rewrite this entire thing. And so
you rewrote what your editor said you needed to do. Well, that's bold. That's bold.
She was happy with it. And it was what we discussed. But I felt it was really important because no longer are we really beholden to stores in the same way. And I think that it's more about designing your own experiences. So it's not really something where it should be about how to choose, but it's more about your selectivity and your individual point of view. Mm-hmm. And I feel ultimately that resonates more with me and also resonates more with readers because it's about the individual and it's focused on your own journey and experience. And while some of that was in the original version, I think that this one really hits more home and feels more vulnerable, but also just I just want to be your cheerleader. I just want to be your friend. I want to hang out and look at all your clothes and talk to you about them. And that sort of warmth is something that I really wanted to put into the book. That's also, it's non-binary. It's something that never really once refers to this is for a woman and that's for a man. It's for everyone, kind of under the sun, because it's for all shapes and sizes and genders, and everyone can kind of come to the party because it's not this specific fashion book.
Well, you know what? In fact, there's a couple of things you said. First of all, you said you love to write in cafes. You said, I want to thank all the cafes I've ever sat in my life to say thank you for, and cafes are just the quintessential writer's genre.
Oh yeah.
A good latte and maybe some Parisian music or jazz in the background, and you're sitting outside and it's a beautiful day and you're writing. But you talk a lot. You said you wrote a lot of stories about dating, and it's interesting that the title of your book is How to Date Your Wardrobe. So there must be some links there.
Absolutely. And I think that the chapter How to Date Your Wardrobe actually it briefly touches on this, and it's actually something that I would like to potentially do a future book of essays about. But this sort of concept of physically the act of like dating principles and how those dating principles can be applied directly to your wardrobe, which isn't necessarily the way that like this book really plays out. This book's more about your own personal individual relationship. But I would love to do something where it's like talks about dating rules and not necessarily rules, but like things that I found to be really helpful. You know, I know that in my individual experience, I felt like a lot of times when I was dating, I was sort of being manipulated by others to kind of go under what makes the most sense for them. And so I felt really out of my power and my worth, and that I didn't really have a lot to offer because it was sort of like, will this man choose me? Like, am I good enough for him? And it wasn't about what I wanted. And I think that was really important for me to realize that I needed to reclaim that power back. And it's sort of the same way that you want to date your wardrobe and reclaim that power back and design the experience that you want to have, not sort of like work under the guise of what someone else has sort of told you about, or, that you think looks kind of good from afar. So when I talk, about in the book to readers, I talk about my experience doing that, and then basically ultimately sort of reclaiming my dating life. And that was the only way I was able to meet a partner whose vision really aligns with mine. And like, I can happily say like, we are still together and very, very happy, which is like a real thing, and I think that we kind of need to each take control back when we're talking about our relationships and our wardrobes. Like, earlier in the green room, we were talking about how our closets get all cluttered with things that don't really speak to us or to our narratives any longer. And I think that that's such an important aspect of, you got to get rid of that stuff that doesn't, so you can see the things that really do.
Right. And I think the fact that you switched the script and you said, you know what, I'm going to make this about me. I'm not going to make this about me chasing a guy. I'm going to make them realize that I'm desirable. And then what that does is that increases your self-confidence.
Yes.
And makes you much more desirable to your partner, because partners love self-confidence in their mates.
Absolutely. Well, we should all have self-confidence in each other.
Yes.
When I just met you earlier, I was like, oh, this woman's confident. She knows what she wants. And I think that it's an attractive thing. It's an attractive quality,
Well, and I think that self-confidence then makes you feel better in the clothes that you're wearing too. So, I mean, it's the full package, and self-confidence in what you're wearing is then going to make you, get that at the top of the list for a job.
100%.
Kinds of things, it might even get you a free coffee at Starbucks just because you're looking like you're really on point. So,
well, and I hate to say it, but it's those little moments where it actually start improving your confidence. It's that moment when you are in the line, for a coffee, and they like charge you for like, a small and they give you a large. Like,
yes,
it really improves your confidence, I hate to say it, but that external validation really does something.
Okay, so let's talk about self-confidence, because in your book, you talk about when you were an adolescent. And I kind of, my situation was similar when I was in college, which was in the early 80s, mid 80s, the preppy button down.
Oh yeah.
You weren't even born yet probably then, but, and that style just did not look good on me. And it was like trying to put a circle or a square into a circle into a square peg? Is that what it is?
A square, wait. Yes, I think so. A circle.
It was not working.
Square.
Yeah, whatever it is. Whoever's out there, if you're watching this, tell us what it is. But it just, and I didn't feel good about the fact that I was surrounded by all these girls, high school, college girls, who were all wearing the same thing, and I didn't feel good wearing it. So in your adolescence, you kind of had the same thing, that you just didn't feel good in the clothes you were wearing. But now you're a stylist. So I want to hear how your loathing of fashion and how you couldn't seem to fall in love with it, and now that's what you do for a living.
Well, I think it's a really interesting story. Kind of ending up where I did is I think, a surprise to all of us in the room, including, my parents, my friends, my family, etc. But at the same time, it also makes a lot of sense. I was like deeply concerned and extremely critical of other women's fashion when I was growing up. And it's something that I was like always had an eye on, and I was always thinking about, and like little things, like little tweaks, little changes. And I didn't realize that that's not how everyone thinks. Not everyone is like looking at things like in sort of like such a didactic way. And that is actually a sign of someone who's like going to become a stylist. At the time I was sort of just like, I'm just looking at like, this is just how girls think. I'm just doing girl think.
Yeah.
What actually ended up happening is I went to school for advertising and public relations. And what I realized sort of midway through was that the program I was doing was just so much more client facing than it was art direction based. And art direction is really where I wanted to go. I was always a creative. I was always taking pictures. I actually won a photography award in high school. And like, I wanted to be able to communicate with the photographer. And that's something that an art director does. So I realized that the best way to do that would be to switch my major from ad PR into photography. And so I was keeping an advertising minor to totally combine the two so that I could go into agency work for big clients like Coca-Cola or Guinness or whatever, and kind of create campaigns for them. But something that I didn't realize is that when you actually graduate, what you need to have now is a graphic design degree. No one had ever told me.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't get a job anywhere doing what I thought I wanted to do. And I'd also been kind of like swayed by the art world. And I was like, okay, I can just be an artist. And everyone had told me that my pictures were really fashion. They were fashion photography. They were fashion oriented. And I'd never thought that that's something I would do or that it's something I could do. And like, I remember making images and people telling me what those images were. And I didn't comprehend what fashion photography looked like or what the industry was. I was so out of touch with that kind of idea, but I just kept making more pictures sort of in this style. And when I graduated, I was like, all right, I'm moving to New York City. I'm going to become, next big world's greatest photographer. And basically I moved to the city and I couldn't get a job. I worked at a temp agency, and like sometimes I would like unscrew water bottle caps. What were some of the good jobs? I had to like tie bison grass together for like a liquor company that was like,
wow,
advertising bison grass vodka.
Something you normally see on a resume. Tie bison grass.
Tie bison grass. I tied bison grass. I like packed up games for Hasbro. Like I did like really funny things for like, for $12 an hour living on
anything to pay the bills.
Yeah, exactly. You got to pay the bills. I knew I had to be in New York. I knew I had to be in New York to do what I wanted to do. And basically after kind of like doing this like funny, strange sort of string of things, a good friend of mine, his uncle ran a stylist management agency. And I didn't know what a stylist was. I had no idea what it was. I remember him showing me the website and being like, I don't get it. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, these are just pictures. Like, these are pictures. And he was like, no, these are stuff like this. Like someone did the hair, someone did the makeup, someone, like this is like it's on. Someone did the hair, someone did the makeup, someone did the wardrobe. And I was like, I don't get it, because I had grown up with an art background. With an art background as a photographer, you're doing everything. You're doing the hair, you're doing the makeup, you're doing the wardrobe, you're getting your mom, your dad, your uncle in front of that camera. So I didn't get that there could be different positions on set to do different things. Mm-hmm. When I started working at that agency, I was like picking up pictures, doing sort of like menial like tasks, running around. So my friend went to Berlin and he had me take his job. And he was like, I'm going to be back in 8 months. So I started working there, and then we lost one of the agents, and I just kept raising my hand to like fill in on her work. And probably like, I don't know, like a month or two before my friend came back from Berlin, I asked my boss, I was like, do you think I could become a junior agent with the team? Like, I've been doing a lot of agent work. And he looked at me and he was like, no, I think you should become a full agent.
Congratulations.
I was 23. It's a 32-year-old woman's job. Like, I was 23 years old. And he was like, wow, you're going to be a full agent. And about 6 months later, another agency actually poached me from there to go start and head their styling division and be a director with them. So I actually was with that agency for like, I think 3 or 4 years after that. And I assembled my own team of stylists. I used all the information I had sort of learned at the previous agency and kind of like what I felt worked, what I felt didn't, and kind of reapplied it to my own shop. And I worked with them, I think it was about 3.5 years. And during that time, not only did I obviously learn more about sort of the ins and outs of marketing stylists and also, how to talk to clients, what people want to see, what they don't want to see, I was also on the back end started styling stuff for my friends. A lot of my friends are artists and they always needed like clothes pulled for things. They always needed like different outfits. And I'd be like, I'll do it. Like, why not? Like, that's fun. Like, I didn't take it very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point in time, my bosses took me aside and they were like, hey, can you stop posting the styling work that you're doing on your Facebook? And I was like, it's a joke. Like, I'm not a real stylist. Like, this is like a funny thing that I do on the side with my friends. I was in my like mid to late 20s at the time. I just didn't take it seriously. Like, I was like, this is my real job. That's like my weekend job. And then clients of mine who were like also friends started sort of picking up on it, and they started hiring me for commercial projects. So actually my first job was for Samsung, and it was like holding phones. Oh, wait, like holding phones.
Uh-huh.
And I was doing like jewelry and like wrist to kind of like create these characters. I was paid handsomely for it. And I was also right above Penn Station on like, there's like a big board right there. And that was my first ever ad.
That's amazing. And so your real job was kind of starting to feel like that it was a conflict of interest. Is that what they were thinking?
I think that's what they were thinking, certainly. And I think for me, you know, I don't do well behind a desk. Like sitting at that desk every single day for 9 hours, like working on other people's careers and experiences is really tough if you're an artist. If you're an artist and you're creative, if you're looking to like make a lot of money, great job. If that's satisfying for you, if that's what you get, or you're like really not emotionally invested and you're like, I want to make good money. I want to go on a great vacation. Like, want to save up, want to buy a house. Like you want to do all those things. And that's like your dream. It's a good job. But my dream is to like be doing active artistic things daily, you know, engaging in that practice. And so every day I would sit in that chair, I would think like, I'm going to die. And so it wasn't necessarily that becoming a stylist was an exit strategy, but like when it found me, I was like, let's latch on.
That's right.
And what ended up happening is I started taking they would let me take jobs because they wanted me to stay. But I took so many jobs at a certain point that I was like, I have to go. And when I did, it was really scary because striking out on your own, suddenly like the clients aren't calling. And I did it at like a time of year that's like not really busy. But when I actually was able to sort of, you know, create momentum and continue to style for different companies, you know, and up until now, one of the things I really found to be super important was actually taking a lot of the things that I had experienced in my youth that I found really negative fashion-wise and applying those to my styling practice. And so one of those things was always like treating every person with respect and really focusing on how they feel in the clothing and not necessarily how the clothing looks on them. I mean, obviously it's going to look great. Like I'm going to make sure it looks great, but I want that cast member to feel fantastic. You know, I just did a shoot for Guinness last week and every one of the cast members approached me afterwards and thanked me for what I'd put them in. They were like so happy with their outfits. And it's really sweet when someone does that because they don't have to. They really don't have to. They're hired for a job. They don't have to be like, I mean, they should be cordial to me, but like you don't have to like gas me up or anything. Yeah. But I think it's really important when you're able to have those relationships with the cast members and the models where they really trust you and they feel like what you're doing is going to be really good for them too. And so that's something that like I took from my experiences of being so excluded from the fashion space and really kind of moved that into creating inclusivity. And that's something that I really champion in my book as well.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about that. We talked about this before we went live and so Marissa commented it's a square peg in a round hole.
Oh, okay.
I thought I'd loop back to that. Thank you, Marissa.
Marissa, we needed you.
Yeah, we did. Thank you. Why do you think so many people walk into their closets and are just like, I have nothing to wear and I don't feel good in and they just keep buying the same thing? And what is that? I mean, what do you tell people to try to help them to step out of their comfort zone?
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, we can kind of like coin that like fashion fatigue. You know, I think that it's one of those things where you're looking in that closet and it's so damn crowded. And it's crowded with like all these different pieces of clothing that you've amassed over the years. And it's also each one of those pieces of clothing holds a memory, whether it's like your first date or like that time you went out with that guy, Paul, like they're all holding these memories. And it's really hard to sort of sort through that every single morning when you get up, you know. Otherwise, like you could just say like, oh, like this shirt is fine. I wear this denim shirt all the time. Like I can just keep wearing this. I used to do that like, again, like just, you know, years ago. Like I would just sort of say like, this is fine. Like this feels good, like whatever. but I wasn't honoring myself or really making myself feel great. I was just choosing the easiest thing. And so that's why something, I really champion in How to Date Your Wardrobe is I want to make that moment that someone goes through a lot easier. I think that can be easier for you if you have a closet that's curated the way you want it to be. Mm-hmm. And if you're really able to sort of like get rid of a lot of that clutter in there and able to see, who you are today, then you're able to actually make that a reality. And so I think that's really an important part of kind of creating that process and making it a more positive experience for everyone.
So one of the strategies you said is that you put on an outfit that makes you feel like $1 million. Like it's the one that you just go to that, I'm going to wear that and I'm going to feel so good when I wear it. And then I don't know if maybe I'm going to make this part up, but do you, and then maybe you leave that outfit on while you go through your closet and you go through you touch each thing and you go, I don't feel like 100% dynamite when I hold that up. I mean, would you go that far? I mean,
oh, absolutely. I mean, basically, what I like your idea almost as like better in some regards, just because it's an easier way to engage with the clothes. What I actually say in the book is to try on each piece and make sure, does it give you that emotional feeling and also that physical feeling that other outfit does. Yeah. The touch idea actually is a really good one, just as like a pre-cleaning. Because that's sort of how you get an idea of like what you're working with. Like if you're having emotional or physical responses, you have to listen to them. And something that you can actually see too, I've done this with a few different clients on this like sort of closet clean out process, is you literally take that pile of stuff that does not make you feel fantastic and you just get it out of your head and out of your brain, and you go and you sell it or you donate it or you do something else with it. You get it out of like any sort of physical space for you. And when you look at what's left in that pile that you have kept, it'll be so easy to see what your personal style is. Like it's really incredible to see. You'll be able to see your point of view is right there in front of you.
I'm trying to find in the book, and maybe you can tell me what page it's on, that when you are going through all of your stuff, you say something like, it doesn't make me happy, but there's someone else out there may pick up this top at a resale shop and it's the perfect thing for them to nail that job.
Yes, exactly. And I think that one of the things, it's a way to kind of release the idea that you're getting rid of something. Mm-hmm. I think it can be really hard to say, like, I'm not going to have this thing anymore that I've had for X amount of years or months or days or whatever. And if you're able to kind of separate that from your emotional space, or that emotional space that you have, and say, like, that would be great for someone else. So many times actually in different ways, I kind of offer that would like way to kind of separate yourself, where it's like, you could actively be helping someone else out in the process just by getting rid of something. And that's not how you think of getting rid of things, do you? You think of getting rid of things as being a thing that you do that's like taking away from you, or it's negative, or it's like draining. It's like, oh, I'm getting rid of this thing. And it's like, no, you're getting rid of this thing. Like it creates space for you and it creates an opportunity for someone else. It's a win-win to get rid of something.
Absolutely. And it's on page 28 and 29 to clear out your closet. And you say that you identify your favorite outfit. You already know what's yours. It's the one that makes you feel like $1 million, and you've worn it twice already this month. Next, I'll set aside time to go through and I've done this before. You really need to say, I'm going to spend all day Saturday, or you need to break it
part of Sunday.
Yeah, you need to break it into shifts, or like set a timer, because it is very overwhelming. And then you give up and all the piles of stuff stay on the bed for 3 weeks.
I know, that's the worst part. You need someone else to pick everything up.
And so you have a pile A, which gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling that you look super hot. And B is, I don't know. I think someone else, you never know if your 2 short pants could be the perfect fit for someone's next job interview. Remind yourself that by creating space for your needs, you're also allowing someone else to fulfill theirs. And I think that's so true. We get so hung up on the fact I spent $75 on that. And now it's going to go to I'm throwing it away. Well, no, you're not. You got your $75 value out of it. And now someone else is going to get joy from it. So,
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think you and I need to write a book then, because you've said that several times that I'm actually very smart. So I've got self-confidence, and let's write a book together, Heather.
There we go.
Okay. So the other thing I want to talk about is why are we still holding on to our bodies obviously have changed because of nutrition and evolution. So why are we still holding on to the 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 sizing when you say in your book that sizing is arbitrary?
It's entirely arbitrary. The way sizes are made are very much per store. Every single retailer has their own concept of sizing, and it's really based around what's going to get you to purchase their merchandise. So more often than not, like Old Navy, for an example, was a really good example of a retailer who would make a large a small, and so all of a sudden you think that you've like lost a bunch of weight, and it like makes you feel really good. And it's like, that's the feeling they want to give you to kind of entice you to purchase something. Whereas realistically, everyone's a different size, but not everyone's like an 8 or a 2 or a 12. You can actually do measurements. If you want to get a real sort of solid idea, a lot of jeans are sized by like numbers, and you can take that tape measure and put it around your waist and see what you're actually working with, as opposed to whatever like, XYZ store has told you. I know for me, if I go to Zara, I'm anywhere between like an extra small and an extra large, just sort of depending on how I want the garment to fit. And I think that that's really important.
That is amazing. And I think you say that in here, and I highlighted that pulling, is it okay for me to read from your book? Is that okay.
No, so it's very flattering. Thank you.
Okay. So pulling from runways and trend reports, retailers give shoppers opportunity to purchase designer-like items at less than half the price of their counterparts, and basics for even lower. Unfortunately, to keep things moving, some corners need to be cut, such as time spent fitting garments on different body types, often using measurements taken only from one frame. Retailers like Zara and H&M tend to size up from there without pausing to consider how else the garment may need to be augmented.
1,000%. That is what happens. And it's really dark. Like, it's really unfortunate, because a lot of times fit models are actually usually about 5'7", and what would be like a typical fit model size? Probably like a 2 or a 4 is a fit model size.
Which is not the average American woman size.
No, but also a lot of fit models don't have hips. And I think that that's something to be really cognizant of as well, is like a lot of women have hips. Hips are like a classic feature of a woman, but yet if you're fitting garments on, a body that's more straight, and then you just keep sizing up, it's not going to look good on someone. The way that you like a body like changes and grows as it gets bigger or as it gets smaller, it's not going to be the same. And so you really need to focus on, different fits and feelings. And that's why like sometimes more higher priced garments are going to come actually with sort of this caveat too of having been fit on different sizes sort of as your body grows.
Interesting. Which is why when I go to H&M, nothing in there ever looks good on me.
Well, it's also very cheap. I mean, the materials they're using are just so inexpensive, and they're going to fall apart in like 5 minutes. I actually have a really funny cartoon that we didn't use in the book that has someone in an H&M sweater, and it's like the tails, like those pieces of string are like coming off, and they're like, "It's from H&M." Like it's like a dude. It's really funny. But I don't want to like drag H&M too hard in the book.
But I think H&M is probably good for like the college student that needs an outfit to wear for a class presentation, and maybe he's only going to wear it for college class. They're not going to wear it to go out and stuff. So
I think that's a big part of it.
Trendy things too, like if you want a real cute trendy that maybe is only going to be in fashion for this season.
About like your staple pieces too, though, so when you're talking about going and like getting something that's trendy, it's like, that's great, but like, does it look great on you? Do you want it for a long period of time? Because if you don't see longevity in the clothing that you're buying, you're kind of wasting your money. You want to buy pieces not only that are made and constructed with like a certain materials and fabrics and time and care and energy, but you also want to make sure like you're not just buying something just because it's like cool right now, because you're really actually just sort of wasting your money.
And you do talk about that in your book. Why do we feel like, and maybe this is an American philosophy, why do we feel like we have to stuff our closet with things when if we just spent a little bit more money on a few investment pieces, we could have fewer amount of clothes, but that whole psychology of if I only have 10 things hanging in my closet, it makes me look like I don't have anything to wear.
I mean, I get it. It's a scary space to be, but it's also like you're going to wear those 10 things a lot. You know, it doesn't have to be 10, but like you're going to wear whatever in there and what's more curated all the time. It's going to be only those pieces that you say, you know, oh, I guess I'll just wear this. Like those, like throw it on. Like I don't have to care about how I look sort of, you know, in the morning getting dressed. It's the worst time of the day ever to get to like actually have to think about getting dressed. It's no fun in the morning. You know, everything in your closet is something that you love. Everything that you're going to pull out is going to make you feel really good. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's better to have a curated space like that as opposed to something that's full of options that you're never going to wear.
Yeah. Because I think, isn't it the saying out there is you wear 25% of your wardrobe 75% of the time?
Absolutely.
I've heard that.
It's like, why are you going to waste your time on that 25%? Like, why are you going to do that to yourself? You know, make sure that you love everything you own. And if you don't love it.
So here's a trap I think we fall into. I think that when I see something on a mannequin, what I really am attracted to might be the fabric or the pattern. But then when I get it on, I know it's not going to look good. So that's one of the traps, right? Is it? I think you say that in your book. What is it that attracts you to something? But then
there's so many things. And I think
you put it on and then you're like, well, this looks awful on me.
Yeah. I mean, something that I used to do, and I do talk about in the book, is that I loved shopping as a kid. My grandmother my parents are both environmental educators. They like don't know anything about fashion and like never want to engage with fashion. So to them, it's like very funny that this is where I am in my career.
Yeah.
But my grandmother is like very fashion forward and like she had a really just like fantastic sense of style. And so she would take me to art museums growing up, and she would also take me to shopping malls. And I saw those two things the same thing as a kid, which I think is really funny looking back on it now. Like I saw going to, you know, a mall as like an artistic experience.
Yes.
Basically buying things in a store as being the same thing as like buying a piece of artwork. And so, you know, when I was thinking about that, I just lost my train of thought. Entirely. I was getting somewhere.
When your grandmother took you to the mall, it was like an art experience.
What was the question you asked me? Because I just entirely.
Why are we attracted to the things that we put on, and then we put them on and they look terrible?
Right. So I'm so sorry. My brain.
Okay. I do that all the time too, but I think it's because I'm 57. Or I'm going to be 57. I'm not going to age myself up yet.
You can age yourself whatever way you want. No, but so I conflate those two things. And then when I would go shopping on my own, you know, I didn't have a whole lot of money. But I would go to stores and I would be like, oh, I can afford this thing. It's on the sale rack. I would like bring it back and I would try it on in the dressing room and I'd feel really good in it because I'd be like, you know, I'm getting this cool, like, I think, you know, one of the things I talk about in their book is like a gold lame top, but like, you know, just anything that I could like afford or like I thought was very cool. I was like, oh, it's so interesting. It's so great. And then I would take it home. And it was like it had just morphed into something I would never wear because it was a piece of clothing that I'd only purchased sort of under like duress / like the experience of shopping like that. You know, to do that was very fun, but to purchase something that I'm not actually going to wear is ultimately just sort of, you know, I'm wasting my money and my time. But it was definitely something that like, I think we're all attracted to these things that we see and we experience. We're all like crows. We're all, you know, we're always like, what is the shiniest, most sparkly, fun thing that, you know, we could possibly have? Mm-hmm. That's not necessarily going to be the piece that you're going to want to wear. You know, I actually dress a lot of my models in like a lot of like sparkly pattern things. I'm getting out of it a bit. I'm moving more to like shape and form, but I was really into like sparkles, patterns, like doing like a lot of like, I don't know if any of you have seen the Coach 1941 collection, but it is superb and like so many just like materials mixing. And I was doing a lot of that work about like 2 years ago. And I thought it was really funny because everyone in all my pictures, all the girls always looked like really shiny and sparkly. And I was wearing like a denim button up, like, you know, tucked under my pants with like, that were also denim with a belt and like, you know, like
you were dressing completely the opposite of what you're putting on your models.
Yeah. And so it's kind of it is a fun aspect of being a stylist is that you can take things that like you see and you think and you're like, that's really fun, but it's not for me. Like my style is a lot more like utilitarian. And, you know, it's funny. I always tell my boyfriend, I'm like, I don't have any style. Like all my style like goes on everyone else. And he's like, no, you have a very specific style.
Well, yeah, because absolutely. This picture of you on the back of the book. Hold on.
Yeah.
I mean, you look like so like, I don't know, people can't see it, but you're just like, so like, is your hair that short or is that a
more? I mean, it was we took those pictures literally, I want to say like half a month before.
I mean, because you're like this.
Oh yeah.
You know, you're very chic in that picture.
Thank you.
You look more approachable how you look tonight. This you look like you mean business.
It's funny. I've been wondering about changing that picture. Because there's one that someone took of me recently that's like no makeup. I'm outside after a shoot. Like it's way more like inviting and warm.
I think you posted that on your Instagram.
I did, yeah.
Really cute.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I look like with my hair down. But I was feeling a little lazy today, and I was like, oh, it'd be fun to do like a little top knot thing. I'll like play with it.
Well, you looked adorable, and I think one of the things you say about that in your book is that we spend more time thinking about ourselves than other people spend thinking about us. And then that's one of the barriers about our wardrobe is that we're so focused on what are people going to think about me. And people don't even give two licks about you. They might look at you and go, oh, you look cute today. And then they're on to the next fire that they've got to put out. So I think we give ourselves too much credit.
I mean, I think it's like the human condition, right? We like we think everyone's like whispering about us in hallways, or like the fraud police are going to catch our tail, and like nobody is. It's like it's you perceiving this incorrectly and sort of like, you know, using external biases and different things that you're sort of like afraid of. You know, a lot of times it's your fears coming through. It's like my biggest fear is that someone's going to say X, Y, or Z about me. So like, obviously they must be gossiping about that, or like they must see through the fact that I'm an artist. You know, it's something that unfortunately I think is like a lot of women deal with. I think a lot of us like are afraid of that. Men are like, I love being a woman, but sometimes I wish I was a man because they're so goddamn oblivious. I think for them, you know, they're not wondering what someone's thinking about them because they're not that socially aware on the most basic level. Like
they get into a disagreement with somebody, they make up and they don't even think about it again. And women fester and replay that interaction or make up all these scenarios in our heads for days. And you ask a guy about something, they're like, what are you talking about? That was like a week ago. Why are we still talking about that?
Oh yeah, no, they have no idea. And like, it's actually really funny, you know, there's so much about the way that women and men engage with each other in terms of like, I had no idea you were thinking about things that way. You know, my boyfriend and I have like a lot of really funny conversations about this because he's really transparent about like, he always is like, he makes a big deal of my shorts. And my shorts are too short, but not in like a mean, like controlling way. He just like thinks that like, he's like, you don't realize that like men are looking at your butt. You don't realize that. And I'm like, I don't know. Like I literally don't know what he's talking about, but he's like, it's really obvious. Like, it's really like those, like, like, you know, you think you look cute, but like men are looking at your butt. And it's like always funny to kind of like, I'm like, no, they aren't. Like, I don't know what you're talking about, you know, but you kind of like get these things in your head that like, you know, as a woman, I'm like, oh, what? I just see like the front of me. Like,
right.
You know, I don't know what
you're talking about. Rear.
Yeah, like I'm just kind of silly. And he's like, hey, just like FYI. And, you know, and in my head, I would never think that. I would never think that a man would be interested in my butt. And he's like, I'm into butts. I know, like, I like your butt. And
but I want everybody else to see your butt.
Right. I also can tell you that everyone else is looking at it. And like, it's just a funny like man woman thing where it's like, oh, like, so like, I didn't perceive that at all.
Okay, let's talk about the man woman thing. And then for those who, we've got several people who are tuning in and like, yes, and shaking their, you know, nodding like to everything you're saying.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
I would love for y'all to give us some questions you want to ask Heather about style.
Please.
Things that maybe like, what is the one thing everyone needs in their closet? Any kind of question you have, because we've got a stylist here that can answer your question. But you talk about in your book that why do women always shop in the women's department? That you can go to the men's department. So tell us what are maybe some little known secrets of what we can find in the men's department.
Well, one of those little known secrets is a crop jacket. Back before crop jackets were a big deal, I actually would scour the little boys section because I like thought crop jackets were really cute. Like I really wanted, like, I would wear like high-waisted jeans and a crop jacket. That's what I wanted. and I could never find one because they weren't selling crop jackets until just like the last few years. And I knew that I could get a jacket that would be like the right size if I went to the little boys section and got like a larger little boys jacket. And I still have my first one, and inside it's a Gap little boys jacket, and it says property of Daniel Zamarin. And it's like it was his jacket, and I still have it. And this is
cute.
15 years later, if not more.
So this was in a resale shop?
Yeah, this was in like a local like
I wonder where Daniel is.
I know. I've never looked him up, which is funny to think about now. I'm always like flashing my Daniel Zamarin, and like, Daniel Zamarin, are you watching? Is the real question.
Well, and you know what? I bet men's clothes are cheaper or less expensive than women's clothes.
They can be. And I also think that, it's really about the look you're trying to achieve. I have a lot of friends who want like wear oversized things, and they feel like the women's section is actually like too restricting. Those things are sort of made to be form fitting. They're not made to be like more, oversized or intentionally oversized. And I think we're starting to see that sort of change kind of because of different styles and trends coming from Gen Z. But also at the same time, I think it's really important to like find what feels good on you. I think there's like, men's pants aren't made with hips. So for women who don't really have hips and are frustrated with women's jeans, trying something in the men's section makes a lot of sense. I think that we see the gender divide, which is what I call it, by putting things into men's or women's sections, as being this like hard line. And it's not hard at all. It's like the softest line. Mm-hmm. I'm a size 11 shoe. And it's hard for me to find like really great boots. And I'll go to the men's section. I'll find really good boots. And it's something that I think is like, it's important to think about. Again, just the look and the feel of an article of clothing is just so much more important than like where it came from.
Right.
And sort of change the way that you see yourself.
Yeah. You talk about in the book on page 36.
I love page references.
That we are living in the 21st century after all. So why do we still pretend a store's organization means anything more than what it is, or that we can't walk downstairs to it's only for men, or upstairs because it's only for women?
Yeah.
And that's so ingrained in us from the time that we start shopping when we're, little.
Absolutely. Well, just that, what's funny is, it's like you belong for a woman, it's like you either belong in the girls section, in the junior section, or in the women's section. Those are your options, one of the three. Yeah. And I remember being very frustrated growing up by being too large for the kids section when I was a kid, because I'm 6 feet tall. You cannot tell right now because I'm sitting down, but I'm very tall. I didn't fit in the kids section I didn't fit in little girls. And so I would have to wear juniors clothes when I was like 10 years old. And I felt really uncomfortable and really out of my body and almost like sexualized in this way that was like really uncomfortable, because that was what was available in the quote unquote junior section. And then by the time that I actually wanted to feel that way, I was in the women's section. And the women's section at I'm thinking of like Sears and the Montgomery Mall is like very old and dowdy. And I was like, where do you find clothes, for someone who is 6 feet tall, but also like 16?
Oh gosh, I could see where that would really affect your self-esteem.
Absolutely. It's just so many strange messages being thrown.
I remember helping my daughter Phoebe. I don't know what happens to the fashion industry, because it's like when they turn 12,
mm-hmm.
the fashion industry like abandons that age group. And all of a sudden there's two categories. Either you dress your 12-year-old like a prostitute.
I know.
Or you put them in something like, at the time it was Lizzie McGuire. And,
oh yeah, totally.
And like, no, she doesn't want to wear like handkerchief skirt with Lizzie McGuire's face on it. And I also don't want her to wear like a sequin boob tube. So I don't, so.
No, it's really hard. I mean,
yeah.
For clothing to be something that really sexualizes, women in such a way, it was specifically hard. I think, if we're talking about like 20 years ago, you'd see the only options would either to be sexy or dowdy. And there were sort of only two options. And like, to have to choose between that as a 13-year-old is a really uncomfortable space to be in. And it's not where our girls should be. And I'm happy to see a lot of that has changed, but it also has stayed the same.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of championing for, different sizes, for different ways that we, again, just sort of dress women over our different ages. But I don't necessarily know how much that's spreading outside of sort of like coastal elite cities. I don't know if we're getting that, movement and traction. And I think that it's really important that we start talking about again, not just how to impress others, but how to impress yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have a couple of comments. Okay. Marissa, who helped us out with the square peg in the round hole.
Oh yeah, she gets the first question.
She said, my son's jeans fit me the best. They also have bigger pockets than my women's jeans.
That's a really valid comment, Melissa. I mean, I think that, women's jeans don't have great pockets, and it's something that is because it adds bulk into that sort of midsection. And that's why designers make it without pockets. There's actually recently something that went viral, so it's interesting we're talking about this. A little girl, I think in the second grade, like wrote a letter to, oh my God, it was some like mass jeans distributor. I want to say Levi's, but I don't think it is. But she wrote them and was like, please make girls' jeans with pockets.
And did they do it?
I don't know. I think it just went viral, like as a letter. I don't know if they're going to do it or not.
That's interesting.
But and people are aware of it, but it is something, it has to do with like, they're trying to flatter the hip region by like not having pockets. But the fact of the matter is like, that's why we all have to wear purses, women, and purses like actually add strain to your back and your neck. Like they're not, I'm always carrying on a giant bag because I'm in the city and I want to make sure I have all the things I could possibly ever need when I'm leaving my house. But I haven't carried a purse in, probably a year and a half now.
No.
I'm just like throwing things in my pockets, and my neck is grateful for it. Like my shoulders do not hurt the way that they normally do.
Yeah, my coworker Brooke the other day said, this is the first time I've carried a purse in a year. Yeah.
It's so wild right now, just the way we're re-engaging with our clothing again. I've had the same bag right before I went on a trip to Israel, actually, right before the pandemic. And when I came back, I was like making jokes about how I brought coronavirus back. And then 4 weeks later, the world shut down.
Did you manage to not get sick?
I didn't get sick, but I just thought it was like the funniest. Like I just thought it was like such a joke. I was like, oh, like this pandemic, like haha. And then that was like mid-February,
and it was real.
But it's like it was very real.
I remember in February of last year, we hosted a book club, and we had to do it virtual because we were just getting ready to enter the pandemic, and we were and also the authors of the book couldn't be local, and we were, let's try that new to us technology, Zoom. And I think we paid about $1,000 and had somebody come in and like set the room up with all these TV screens and stuff. And then like 3 weeks later, we had the pandemic, and now Zoom is like in everyone's home.
I mean, whoever bought stock in Zoom before the pandemic is like fucking millionaire.
They are. And I wish that I had thought of it, because why did that technology's been around for years, and why did we pretend it never existed? I don't know. It's change. It's change is what it is.
It's change. And I think it's interesting. I think we've been forced to utilize technology in this different way right now, and I think because of that, things are never going to be the same in terms of remote work and the way that we're able to kind of like,
I hope not.
Like this right now. I think that like people are much more comfortable engaging into conversations between individuals, who might not be able to connect in other ways. They're much more interested in tuning into them online because we've just been doing it now. It's become more habitual. And my calls I have now with my clients are all Zoom calls. We all see each other's faces. There's like something to be said for that. But at the same time, I also am the person who's like, please text me before you video message me. If you like video call me or FaceTime me, like I will not pick up. Like a random FaceTime to me is like a true intrusion into my space.
Yeah.
And I really don't like it. And I always turn them down. They make me uncomfortable. And so I think that it's things like that we like sort of, I think why kind of the human condition sort of kept us away from doing these kind of things. I think because people did want to like sort of hold that semblance of privacy. But I also think at the same time, like there are a group of people who really adapted to the technology, far earlier than I did in terms of just comfortability levels, and if we're talking about, another step to like influencers who just literally are just sharing their entire lives, through their phones, or just living through their phones. And through that stream, you're having those kind of conversations now about like how, like, what does privacy look like anymore? And I talk about this a lot just with friends because I'm like, I'm doing all these new things. I have this book out. I'm like talking to new people in new spaces, and it's a lot of fun, but also I'm like a deeply private person who like doesn't want to show like, here I am on the couch. Here's what I'm watching. Here I am on the couch. Here's what I'm watching. It's so fun. Here's some snack bars. Like I can't do it. I can't do it.
It's a happy medium.
Yeah.
There's an elephant in the room, and we talked about this before in the green room, that now that people are starting to gather, we have to wear hard pants.
I love that term.
And so Mary has a question about, I'm stuck in my COVID leggings t-shirt and I'm having a hard time transitioning back to hard pants. Oh, she called them hard pants.
Wow, hard pants is trending.
Yeah, I want to make the change, but my leggings are so comfy and suck all my COVID extra pounds in nice and tight. So tell us how we can go back to dressing in a way that still makes us comfortable, but also makes us presentable.
Well, I think that one of the things we're going to start seeing more of is designers creating intentionally oversized pieces. I think that a lot of people feel like the only way to sort of look professional is to look really like pulled in. I don't want to say pulled together, because I think that you can still look pulled together in something that's more oversized. But I think that what we're talking about is that sort of like wearing the hard pants, wearing the tight shirt, wearing like the form-fitting clothes that sort of women are kind of, asked to wear. And I think because of the pandemic and because of all the time we've spent, not wearing hard pants or things like hard pants, hard shirts, hard items, the hard items have all been put away. Mm-hmm. People aren't going to want to start doing that again. Like it hasn't ever been fun. It's the same thing as like wearing like the heels to the nightclub that you wear all night long and your feet have been hurting the entire time. Like I could never go to a nightclub because I never wanted to wear heels for that long. Mm-hmm. And that kept me from doing that. And it's not something that I was like super bummed about, but I knew that like my feet would hurt more than I would have fun. That would keep me from having fun.
Yeah.
And so I think I only use that as a metaphor because you want to wear things that are going to make you feel like you can have fun and like you can engage in what you want to do. And so I think, we're going to see a lot of more intentionally oversized pieces from designers. I think also as that happens, but also before it happens, I think it comes back to this idea of, feel over fit, whatever feels the best on your body is what you want to lean into. And so, think about the things that during quarantine you did really enjoy, whether it's going to be leggings. If you feel like you can't wear leggings out and about, maybe it's, leaning more into skirts and dresses. Maybe it's that freedom of not wearing the physical pant that feels good on you. Maybe I think it's finding those tips and tricks of working around things. I talk about at the beginning of the book, this idea of finding things that are your insecurities and then kind of flipping them on their head so that you can really identify the way to love these things that you've always disliked about yourself. And I think that that's something to think about when you're going to be redressing and re-entering again. It's sort of like, what are these things that I don't like? And how do I work around that? How do I design the best experience for myself to enjoy my life the way that I want to live it?
Okay, so you just flipped that on your head. That's a really good point, is what are my insecurities and how can I dress to overcome those insecurities? So in this case, it's the hard pants. We don't want the restriction of having to button and zip something around our waist. So maybe designers are going to start with I don't know if you'd call it a ponte knit, but just like the pull-on trouser that kind of has a little bit of a bootleg or because I think J. Crew does a really good job with that look. It's a slimming look. Mm-hmm. But you could wear a bigger shirt over it, like a button down with a blazer or a denim jacket over it.
I would also say too, one of the things that I think is better for women just overall, and I think that we like, I think it's funny because they're called high-waisted pants, but they're really just natural waist pants. I think something that we all have in our heads just from like the 90s and 2000s.
Mom jeans.
That it's a mom jean, but also that like your natural waist is lower than that, but it's somewhere between your hips and your belly button. And actually your natural waist like sits above your belly button. Like that's not a high waist, that's your natural waist. And so if you're buying pants that are actually going to hit you in your natural waist, it really comes down to rise. So you're going to want to be looking at pants that have a certain, like I'm 6 feet tall, so I need a rise that's somewhere between 11 to 12 inches in the front so that I hit my natural waistline. And that line is a lot more comfortable to have a waistband at than it is to have a waistband around, my hips or lower than that, where it's sort of a more tender area. So it's a lot more flattering if you're hitting your natural waist because you're also going to show off your curves in like a more attractive way to you and I think to others as well.
Okay, so look for a high waist jean or a high waist pant, because that will help to conceal the areas that you're.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I know I love you talk about Old Navy, but I love Old Navy for like I love their jeans, the way they fit on me.
Good.
I mean, I like their button fly because button fly to me kind of like flattens your stomach instead of a zipper, where a zipper can kind of pooch.
I get it. I'm very anti-stretch. This is like a widely debated topic that, you know, people come down in different spaces when it comes to stretch. But for me, I like a jean that's like really secure and kind of holds you in. And so that feels better on me than something that's stretchy, because it feels more like a legging and more like movable. And I like my jeans to feel really nice and tight. And that's my choice, obviously. But I think that it's more flattering, you know, and it does hold you in more if that jean has less stretch in it. I think that stretch actually like creates pooches and creates weird lines on bodies that people don't think about. And when you're actually talking about a more like a stiffer denim, you're going to have more of like a pulled in look.
Okay. So Marissa, who's, you know, our square peg, the really
gold star,
she's our smart viewer. She said it was Cameron Gardner, a first grader, who wrote the letter to Old Navy.
Yes. Okay.
Denim shorts and jeans with real pockets.
Yes.
So Cameron needs to run for president.
I think so. I would vote for her.
Yeah. And Marissa also says she sticks with high waist fit because it hides the muffin top.
Yeah. Well, because the thing is that there is like the whole concept of the muffin top is so crazy, because it's just something that was forced upon us because they were having jeans at a place in a woman's body that is not flattering. And like, again, like the idea of a high waist, it's not a high waist, it's just a natural waist. And so I agree with you, Marissa, like that is the most flattering place to be. And I think that it's like, that's how a woman's body works. You have like, there's this, you know, isn't that like the natural, like Danny Zuko Grease kind of thing? It's like, come in the center, and then you like, it makes her hip look better. It makes her waist look better. It kind of like creates an overall effect that's really flattering. Okay.
So we're almost out of time because I wanted to try to be respectful and just keep you for an hour, but I do want to talk about something. So we've gone through our closet. We've touched every single thing in our closet. We've made piles. We're taking it straight to the car to either take to Goodwill or to a resale shop, or we're going to do Thread Up, or one of those where you can take a picture of it and they send you a bag and you mail it and then they sell it for you.
Make it easy for yourself.
Okay. So your closet's empty. And now we're going to go and do some shopping online. And you give some great tips in your book, 5 things to do for online shopping. And I actually have a 6th one to add to your list.
I want to know what's that one
that we can do for our book that we're going to write together. So could you tell everybody what the 5 tips are? The 5 commandments of online shopping.
I'm like, I don't even know which order they're in. No, I think, you know, I always find.
Is this going to put you on the spot, but you're going to know all 5 of them? So
I definitely know a lot of them. I just don't know what order.
That's okay. Do you think the Duggar family knows the names of all their kids?
I mean, you would hope so.
There's 22 of them, so it's okay. I'll help you out. It's on page 58 for anybody who's wanting to know.
I'm gonna grab my own copy right here.
All right.
Fully immerse myself. This is so embarrassing.
No.
No. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, always buy in threes when you're shopping online. I think that's the most important thing, is to make sure that you buy something that's your size, and it's a size, then one that's a size up and one that's a size down. That way you just kind of build the return process into the way that you shop. And by doing that, you actually make room for you to sort of always get the present at the end of the day. I think a lot of times people are not, you know, apt to return something because they were like so excited about this piece just arriving point blank that they're not thinking about how it flatters, how it looks, what's interesting or engaging about it. They're just sort of like, well, my present's here, like this is great, you know? And so they're less apt to sort of either do a return or an exchange. And so if you're shopping in threes and you're already planning to return 2 pieces, it doesn't really matter sort of what size you end up choosing. It really just matters what piece it is. And if it's a size that you're not comfortable with, I say in the book, get rid of throw out the tag, just cut it out. Just don't think about it. Just think about how it feels. You know, the other thing I'm checking my thing, figure out about the fit, because I feel like online shopping, from my experiences as a stylist, the fit is not always real. The pictures are not real. The pictures are fake pictures. I should know because you should look at what happens behind the model. I'm literally just taking office supplies and tying things behind the model to make sure that she or he, looks great in that outfit. I'm not doing it in such a way that you're actually going to get a great notion of how the clothing looks. I'm doing it so that they look good. And so it's really important. One of the things that, I've suggested is to go through Instagram, through the company's website, or, see if you can find a picture of someone wearing the garment so you have a really good idea of what you're actually looking at, as opposed to kind of how the retailer really wants you to see it. Which is a big part of my job, is like making sure it looks the way the retailer wants you to see it.
Right.
Which is, again, brings us to using social media to your advantage, which is number 3. And number 4, I always say you should shop with a credit card. I think shopping with a credit card, obviously, it depends on if you have a credit card. And I think that, we don't all have access to them, but if you have access, that way, when you're shopping in your 3s, you're not thinking about, losing all this money in your bank account. You're able to put that on the credit card and then send things back before your statement's due. And that way it also kind of keeps you motivated to keep, sending things back, because you don't want to have to pay for that balance.
Yeah. And you said that retailers on average only see 10 to 30% of merchandise returned.
They never see anything returned. There's so much shame living in the return line and living in the returns process. People don't take things back because there's this weird notion that someone's going to say like, hey, why are you doing that? Or like, that's too much stuff, or there's something wrong with you, or like, why didn't that work good on you? They always ask you why you didn't like the piece, and like saying, I'm just not into it, like doesn't really seem to count. They want to hear what you have to say in terms of like, it didn't fit me in this way. And like, you don't have to have that conversation. You just want to kind of like slowly slide it under the table.
Right. Or we can send someone else to the store to return it.
And I will tell you, one of my jobs as a stylist is often to buy like $10,000 worth of merchandise and return $9,000 of it. And I am lucky in a place right now that I have assistants who help me to do that. But it's something where like for years, I had to take these gigantic bags of clothes all over the city to return them to different places. And I felt a lot of shame. And I had to remind myself that like stylists do this all the time. But it is something where, the return line is a place that like, people are afraid, of being sort of turned down, or there's sort of a rejection in that, or that you've been rejected by that piece of clothing. And, you want to be able to feel like your purchases are as flexible as if they were rentals. That way you don't feel like you have to, we're beholden to a certain thing just because, as we spoke about earlier, you're taking it from the store into your home. It no longer feels like you anymore. You want to be able to return that garment.
Right. And then I would add, you said examine your purchases.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that kind of
nasty and somebody else has worn them or.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's, it's not even just that someone else has worn them, but it's like, they've told you the fabric composition, potentially on the website, but you don't really know how that garment feels in your hands until you actually get it there. And it might have cost you, say, $75. And when you hold it in your hands, you're like, this feels cheap as fuck. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, I got to get rid of it, but you feel really bummed out when it comes and you're like, wow, this is so cheap. And you're like, well, I guess I have to hold on to it. It's what it is. And it's like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You can get rid of that. You can
So the 6th thing that I would add to your 5 things is read the reviews.
Yes. That's great.
What has kept me from buying things is when people are like, this is cute, but when you get it home, it's going to look like you have a cardboard box.
Oh, yeah.
It's not flattering. They failed on this, don't buy it. I'm like, well, if 10 people have said that, then it's probably true. Or the color is not like Amazon's really bad about that. When you say fake models, Amazon's models are not
like what they'll have also, not only that, is they'll have like a picture of a girl in a dress, and that dress, as you hover over different colors, will just change color.
Yes.
Picture of the girl.
And it's not even like really on her body.
No, it's just not real. And like, it's really unfortunate that companies aren't as good at like disclosing size information. I actually think that Madewell does a really good job when it comes to showing different bodies and sizes and figures for like each of their different sizes. And now they're also incorporated plus into their jeans as well. And I think that they actually have some of the best jeans for the price that they are.
And what designer is this?
Madewell. I don't know if you've ever shopped.
Yes, Madewell. Is that one of the companies that you do a lot of work with?
I wish I did more work with them. They're unfortunately all in-house. All their stuff is in-house. So they're not hiring freelance stylists. But I really respect them because I think that they're trying to be very inclusive for women of all shapes and sizes and also different tastes. And I think that like their jeans, they were one of the first people that I saw doing high-rise jeans. And they were actually thinking about a woman's body.
So Mary that wants the high-rise, go to Madewell.
Yes.
Yes. They have a great website too. They have lots of really cute stuffs. Okay.
Yeah.
Heather, I have had so much fun with you, and I wish we could talk all night. This has been very informative. I appreciate you joining us this evening. I wish you much success. Thank you for, and for those of you who don't know, how I got in touch with Heather is I just messaged her on Instagram and said, I love your new book. I'd love to talk to you about your book and about your experience as a stylist. And she said, I would be happy to. So thank you for being so humble and gracious. And we appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody joining us tonight with the great questions. And I'd love to stay in touch.
100%. This has been such a joy. And, I always reach out. I feel like never be afraid to reach out. It's gotten me jobs. It's gotten you interviews.
Yes.
It's scary. It's weird. It can be uncomfortable, but just do it and see what happens.
That's right. Well, everybody said great job. Thanks, everyone. And I think that we're going to sign off. And best of luck to you, Heather. I know great things are waiting for you.
Oh, man, Melissa, I really appreciate that. And let's definitely keep in touch, okay?
I would love that. Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.